Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Brian Ortega to defeat Diego Lopes. And I'm here to recap UFC NOCHE Season 306 of Riyadh. All right, let's start at the top here. Merab Dvalishvili gets it done, beating Sean O'Malley in a fight that was, in the end, close on paper, closer than we'll remember it. Kind of like Bilal versus Leon, where O'Malley definitely had his moments, but Merab shut him down with his wrestling. Plan A worked, and Sean O'Malley knew what was coming and just wasn't able to stop it. Wasn't able to land that shot, of course, although he landed some good shots. But he never stopped Merab in his tracks, and Merab was just stalking him and got takedowns more easily than I expected, and also secured control more easily than I expected. And I thought he got some solid control time, not just riding and grinding against the cage, although he did that for a bit as well, but he secured top position and pinned Sean O'Malley. I think he found a lot of success from half guard, just riding it. Merab is physically stronger in tight. And Sean O'Malley didn't have his length and his height and his reach and the rest of it on the ground. And he was neutralized for large portions of this fight. Merab, he could do this to anybody. That fight with Umar is going to be really interesting. I don't have one inclination one way or the other. I know that's a fight where I got to rewatch everything. But grappling is going to be the story of the Bantamweight Championship for the foreseeable future. And speaking of which, Sean O'Malley's already released a video saying he needs to work on his wrestling. And he does, because again, like I just mentioned, if it's not one, it's the other. There's going to be a grappler top the division by the time he gets back, if he does get back to a title shot. But yeah, Sean O'Malley is not a perfect fighter, and he's got to patch up those holes. He's got to be careful, though, and not overcompensate. He's got to keep his striking sharp. I don't know, sometimes fighters, they're always trying to patch up the most recently exposed holes. But you're never going to patch everything up, and sometimes you're better off leaning into your strengths. It's a whole fucking mess. But either way, he does need wrestling work in one way or another, whether it's focusing on getting up or sprawling in the first place or whatever. So, yeah, he's going to be getting back to the drawing board. But for Merab Dvalishvili, I think, is capable of doing that to any fighter on the planet. He is Mr. Wrestling, Mr. Cardio. Guy does not slow down. And it finally paid off after, 11 consecutive victories. And now he's the world champion. Ray Longo and Matt Serra get another champion. And I know, he moves around a lot, but their gym gets another championship. It was great to see Aljo there, embracing him. And yeah, this was, some Rocky movie playing out. Wasn't quite as cinematic, but he got revenge for his teammate. And as for the bullshit in the middle of the fight, I don't know what to make of that with Herb Dean. I know Herb Dean, I thought, was overstepping in general, but he got involved pretty quickly with the trash talk in the corner. I know, what's his name there? Tim Welch can, play some games, and I'm all fine with gamesmanship. Look what he did to Aljo. But I don't know what exactly was being said, and I know Merab was being clearly distracted, and Herb Dean wanted to take over the fight there, regain control. So he kind of nipped that shit in the bud. But there was a lot of drama in this fight and, bullshit. In the end, though, they shook hands. O'Malley was pretty gracious, just, his head down and clapping and whatever, back to the drawing board and all that. But yeah, this one was, there was a good amount of bullshit in this fight, which is nice. I'm all for the bullshit, but I wish I knew exactly what was being said there. Regardless, great fucking win for Merab. Guy is a problem for anybody. Valentina Shevchenko defeated Alexa Grasso. I thought she looked incredible here, Valentina. This was a story of physicality, and that's what she made the fight about. And she was able to bully Alexa Grasso. And it wasn't just her pinning Alexa Grasso. I thought, there was plenty of stand up, and Valentina Shevchenko was dictating the stand up as well. She looked like Valentina with the sharp counter hooks and beating Alexa to the punch. I think with plan A being to rip Alexa to the mat, and that being a lot more obvious here, Alexa Grasso was flustered and she didn't give her best performance at all. Alexa, stop. The fucking thing comes on for no reason. All right. Hey, cell phones. Uh, but I think Alexa Grasso looked tough. She could have checked out. Valentina Shevchenko was dominating her, but she was careful of Valentina's strengths. Never let Valentina secure that crucifix and get close to finishing her. And Alexa was working submissions from her back. Got a few that were close enough to get the commentators pretty worried, I guess, but I wasn't too worried. And I thought Valentina was very comfortable in there. This was a shutout, 50-45. There's not one round you could give to Grasso. She locked up some chokes halfway here and there, but Valentina was pretty dominant in every round, where I'd say 50-45 should be the case. But great win for Valentina. This was, maybe not the most thrilling fight, but as for a victory, this was incredible. She was 0-1-1 against Alexa Grasso, of course, getting finished. And then the rematch, even though I'll be the first one to tell you Valentina should have won, it was still really close. Really, really close. Back and forth, each girl having success everywhere. Valentina was technically dropped there. She was dropped, but whatever. It wasn't like her chin gave in. It was a little momentum. But either way, in this fight, there was no moment for Alexa Grasso on the feet, on the ground, whatever. Like I said, a few half-ass submission attempts, but nothing that made you think she was even in the realm of winning one round. So this was an incredible victory for Valentina Shevchenko, because she takes her biggest rival and kind of steps on her head here, as far as the old-time GOAT bullshit goes. And separates herself, I think, from Alexa Grasso, even though Alexa Grasso is the only girl to get a finish. And of course, the series is tied now. But with that type of fight, it was so dominant, you're not going to see a rematch. So that should give you an indication of who won the series here. And it was Valentina. Brian Ortega did not defeat Diego Lopes. I thought he looked very tough. I thought his toughness was on full display, because there was a chance he was going to get finished like 20 seconds into the fight. And Diego Lopes kept working him, had the big moments, but also the small moments, adding up with those leg kicks, which was his best weapon, really, at the end of the day, aside from whatever he rocked him with early, maybe. But Brian Ortega was neutralized, was never able to fight his way back into the fight like I thought he would. I thought he'd be behind early, but take over the fight. And it looked early like he was going to do that in round 2, I think, but his legs were already compromised, and Diego Lopes is not somebody who's ready to collapse like I keep expecting him to. So great win for Diego Lopes. I don't know where he's at now, but he's in the realm of a title shot. His next fight could be one. No complaints from anybody if his next fight's for a title shot. And I look at him like somebody, despite the loss to Movsar Evloev, I look at him like he's undefeated in the UFC. And I'd love to see him fight Movsar Evloev again for a 5-round fight. But yeah, he looked fucking incredible. I'm done doubting this guy. Although I have to see who he's fighting next. But Brian Ortega, I'll never stop doubting his toughness. Again, there was no bullshit injury or whatever here. He did not get TKO'd, and he took an ass kicking. But he wasn't able to turn things around against Diego. I think he was physically outgunned, and all of his traits, they were there for him, but he wasn't able to stand on them because his leg was compromised. How do you like that? He was fucked up in a lot of ways here, and it was just too much to overcome. So I'll give him praise for his toughness, but this was a pivotal loss here to Diego Lopes. Next up, we have Esteban Ribovics and Daniel Zellhuber. This was an awesome fight. Fucking incredible. Both guys showed an incredible amount of toughness. Both guys showed so much heart and so much tenacity because so much happened at the end of that fight. And in the end, Esteban Ribovics, I did think, outpointed Daniel Zellhuber. Daniel Zellhuber, I thought, was a little sharper early on, and then the combination striking of Ribovics was taking over and getting past the reach. And of course, he had him finished, nearly finished, for like 2 minutes straight. It was just fucking incredible. And Daniel Zellhuber sucked it up, found his way to escape, and then found his way back into the fight. This was just an amazing fight. I did think it could have gone either way, even though I scored it for Ribovics, which, by the way, I'm aware his last name is Ribovics. But I don't know. I'll keep referring to him like he's Mirko Krokop's cousin. But yeah, he showed every trait in the book. This guy, his one loss was a tough loss, I think, on short notice, and he still showed a bunch of great traits there. But here, a few more fights into the UFC, and he's done nothing but impress me. And even in the loss, he impressed me. But this was phenomenal, and I'd be saying the same shit about him if he lost the split decision. And for Daniel Zellhuber, this was a tough loss because it really could have gone either way, and I thought he fought so well. And I think he showed every trait in the book. He I thought was much closer to getting finished, so he showed a lot of heart there. But of course, that's partly why the decision went to Esteban. So yeah, just overall an excellent fight. I think both guys' stock went up, and I know their bank accounts did because they got fight of the night. But yeah, just every trait in the book was on full display. That was truly fucking awesome. Just incredible. Next up was Ronaldo Rodriguez beating Ode Osborne. That was a unanimous decision. That was a very close fight because Ode had so much success early. I did think Ronaldo Rodriguez was able to take over the fight, and I thought he won rounds 2 and 3, even though it was still close. But Ode Osborne nearly knocked him out and then nearly choked him out, had a great submission on him. And I just thought that was really close, where my official scorecard was draw, to be honest. I thought it was 10-8 for Ode and then 2 10-9s for Ronaldo Rodriguez. But look, the decision went his way. And I have to say, all those traits were there for him in this fight. I'll consider this a half a strike against his durability, his chin, the next time I talk about him. Don't get me wrong. But his recoverability and his heart and his tenacity and his cardio being there down the stretch, I thought it was an excellent performance. This guy's still young and new to the UFC and whatever, but he's a seasoned fighter. And even though he hasn't had a chance to show all these traits against really good fighters, he's still shown them against decent fighters, and he's gotten a lot of late finishes and a lot of success down the stretch. And here, the chips were down. It was all on the line after round 1, and he pulled away with a victory somehow, just by scratching and clawing and giving himself a shot. I did think he'd be able to finish Ode if he was able to turn the fight around like this, and he definitely gave himself a shot. But still, a decision victory is a good look for him, and a good look for Ode as well, frankly. Most of his losses are by finish. So this was a rare decision loss, and one that I think should have been a draw, and hopefully it's considered that way for his future, because he definitely fought to stay in the UFC here. But great win for Ronaldo Rodriguez. That really was phenomenal. And I've got to be honest, even though I bet on Ronaldo, I was kind of rooting for Ode because, some of the antics and whatever. Next up, we have Norma Dumont taking out Irene Aldana. This was a great fight for Norma Dumont. I thought she was going to need to slow this fight down and pin Irene Aldana, and I thought she looked really good on the feet, really sharp, and maybe a little too sharp because she split Irene Aldana's face wide open. But just a great win from Norma. I thought she was pretty comfortably winning in there. I gave her all 3 rounds, and I thought this was a fight that she would be losing. Fighting more of a striking battle, and she looked really sharp. I think she looked like the better athlete in there. Her age might have been showing, or maybe Irene Aldana's age. She's 5 or so years older, or whatever. But she was still very battle tested and the rest of it. And Norma Dumont outpointed her pretty cleanly. I thought Aldana looked tough, of course, and in the end gave herself a shot. She was scratching and clawing, but I still think Norma pretty much shut her out here. Great win for Norma Dumont. She's never going to have too many flashy victories, and she doesn't have a finish in the UFC, I believe. But she's still a fucking awesome fighter, capable of beating anybody, and this was another high-level fighter that she beat. And after that, we have Ignacio Bahamondes beat Manuel Torres, knocked him out in round 1. This was awesome. I thought Bahamondes would tame Torres, take him into deep waters, and try to get him out of there later. But he just got him out of there early. Some beautiful counter shots, big right hands. And Manuel Torres, a guy who has steamrolled everybody he's beaten pretty much, and looked damn good in the UFC and very dangerous. But this was a new wrinkle to his profile. It's the first time he's been finished by strikes, and this was a round 1 stoppage here. He was the one who was steamrolled on paper anyway. Ignacio Bahamondes, a guy who I think, despite some flashy moments, is not considered Mr. Danger, but he's pretty damn dangerous, and he's a physical challenge for most guys in his division, most lightweights. And I think here he showed all that against a guy that I expected him to beat, but wasn't quite sure. And here he made it look pretty damn easy and tamed him inside of a round. Awesome win for Ignacio Bahamondes, and a tough loss for Manuel Torres because, again, he's still healthy and the rest of it, but this is a new wrinkle to his profile. He's been knocked out before, as opposed to his other 2 losses, which are round 1 submissions some years ago. And next up, we had Katlyn Souza submitting Yasmin Jaregui. She choked her out and out. I think Yasmin Jaregui went to sleep. She went to sleep, and she was so fucked up, she went home and swept the floor. That's what I was trying to say. What do you think of this humor here, huh? But Katlyn Souza exposed that chin. That was the story of this fight, the story of the loss, in my opinion. She did get submitted ultimately, but this is 2 losses from Yasmin Jaregui, and in both of them, she's been knocked halfway out. And that's what happened here. She got fucked up. The power and the danger of Katlyn Souza was too much for her. I thought Yasmin looked very comfortable on the outside, but she was getting a little too close on the inside. I forget what I was saying, but I was saying, like, get out of there. What are you doing? Throughout that fight, as short as it was. And Katlyn Souza got her. And it was phenomenal. Katlyn Souza getting a submission victory too. But really the danger, the power is what got this her win. And she came through as a big underdog. And over a girl that I can't say what I expect of her future. I thought she had a really great future before this loss. But, if that durability is a big issue, it might not be the brightest future for Yasmin Jaregui, but technically she's phenomenal, Jaregui, and I think she's technically superior to Katlyn Souza and a lot of other fighters. But there's all those other intangibles, and every now and then, quite often, they're the story of the fight. And speaking of which, Joshua Van. I mean, I don't know if I'd call cardio an intangible. That's pretty stupid, but cardio is a trait of his, and that's what won him this fight. And there was no guarantee that his cardio would be there for him because he took the fight on short notice. very short notice, just like he did against Zhalgas Zhumagulov, I believe. And in general, it was the same type of fight. I mean, much different, but where he was down early and then winning down the stretch. He's a guy who's been reliable in rounds 2 and 3. And here I thought he had more hustle than Edgar Chairez, which is so impressive on cardio alone. But also when you consider the fight and how it was going for Joshua Van and how he just got knocked out on top of the ass kicking he was taking. And it was really impressive. He turned this fight around. I think he beat some of the cardio out of Edgar Chairez with those body shots. His hands are fucking phenomenal, Joshua Van. And once he got going pretty early into round 2, I think he generally took over the fight. Although I think it was Chairez who hit him with a spinning elbow or spinning back fist when he was cornered and being teed off on and turned the fight around briefly. In the end, it was a war, overshadowed by wars later in the card, Esteban and Daniel. But this was still an incredible fight, and both guys showed so much heart and so much grit and the rest of it. It'll be forgotten pretty quickly. I think it wasn't the highest profile fight, but this was fucking awesome, and both guys, I think, are here to stay in the UFC. But yeah, Joshua Van was knocked out a few months ago. He was hurt recently. Maybe sit the next one out if you get any short notice calls, you know. But still, great win nonetheless. And for Chairez, yeah, it was a tough loss for him, and he did lose down the stretch, but he still showed a lot of heart in the rest of it. And in the opening fight of the night, Raul Rosas Jr. defeated Aoriquileng. This was another very close fight. I mean, I didn't think it was that close. I thought it could have been close in round 2. I thought Aoriquileng was going to make that interesting. But Raul Rosas Jr. looked very comfortable on the feet, didn't get flustered, didn't get overwhelmed when he started leading some shots the wrong way. His footwork was good and the rest of it. And, of course, his wrestling in the end was the story of the fight. He had a dominant first round, wasn't able to secure the finish. And then in round 3, he was able to reclaim control of the fight with a takedown and had a lot of good control. It was an excellent win for Raul Rosas Jr. He's a guy that doesn't win too often by decision. This is only his second decision victory. And this one wasn't as comfortable as the other one over Mando Gutierrez. But this one was still, it shows his evolution as a fighter. You know, he's not quite the most seasoned and mature guy. I still think there's room for him to make mistakes and get finished down the stretch and blah, 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 blah. But I think Raul Rosas Jr. is a problem. He's here to stay in the UFC. It's not some gimmick, the fact that he's a teenager. He's an above average UFC fighter right now, and he's only getting better and better. So a hard-earned victory for him. I'm sure he wanted to get more of a flashy finish, which, by the way, I think he was calling out for 50 G's. No, you're not getting 50 G's. But I'm sure he got a nice winning bonus or whatever, well, his winning purse, and he earned it. You know, again, it wasn't the flashiest victory, but he still had to show a lot of maturity and a lot of traits as a fighter to win this one. And he never let it slip away when I thought there was a chance it would in round 2. But great win for Raul Rosas Jr. For Aoriquileng, this was a tough loss. Aoriquileng, he's one of those quiet, under the radar, perhaps under par UFC fighters. But this is not a bad loss at all. I think most guys that lose to Raul Rosas Jr. will get steamrolled. And I also think this loss here will get better with age. So, not bad at all. But in the end, this was a good event. But let's face it, the last 2 fights slowed the pace down. And this really, you know, I don't think the fights themselves or the card itself really matched the event here with UFC NOCHE and the Sphere and all that. So, whatever. But that's it for me. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos and whatever the fuck.